Welcome to Comic Wars. Think of the show as Fight Night, but without the mess of actual combat. The data will speak for itself before the outcome, but in case it doesn't, we will break all of it down in the outcome at the end of the show. Let's dive right in to our overview. We don't have any guests tonight, that's okay. I am talking to people and seeing if maybe somebody would be interested in popping in just to go and have a little go with this and see kind of how would this next round or one of these rounds go. But we don't have any guests tonight, so there won't be any guest intro or any kind of guest guesses. But I will say, before we really get into anything, this is definitely a battle of the underdogs. We are talking underdogs. After the guesses and guest intros, then we get into the background details. Now this has played at least 2 rounds this season. Has played into the actual outcome of the match. Now they generally don't play the biggest factor, but they do have some influence. For instance, if you have a character that's a martial artist, that's what they do for a living, them be able to go against somebody who doesn't really have a whole lot of martial arts experience is going to make a difference, because now you got somebody that's constantly training and getting in combat situations. So their combat awareness is going to be just through the roof in comparison. So these characters might have to make up for it in one way or another. After that, then we get into the feats. Now this is going to be where strength and speed, agility, durability, their martial arts prowess, their ingenuity in combat, their gadgets and or powers come into play. We'll analyze what these characters are bringing into combat, and we're going to explain what their capabilities are. This leads into the next part where we get into the data analysis, which is where we break everything down. What kind of damage can these characters inflict? How fast can they dodge? How fast can they go and close the distance? How much damage can they take before they would be defeated? Or worse? What kind of things can their gadgets do? Can they do damage? Can they be used for distraction? What kind of things can they do? And then, of course, we're going to do the same thing with the powers. Then we're going to look at their martial arts. How capable in combat are they? And why is this going to be a lot more... This really generally doesn't go into their capabilities as much. The data doesn't really come from ingenuity or martial arts as much. This is going to be your data analysis, give you strength, their ability, speed, and agility, and usually their gadgets and power, what kind of things they can do, the capabilities of said things. Sometimes martial arts can come into play. For instance, if a character knows Muay Thai, or they're a Taekwondo practitioner, something like a tornado kick could come into play. So then we're going to be looking at what kind of damage a tornado kick on average is capable of, and then we're going to go and compare it with body weight and things like that, just to see how it breaks down. After that, we're going to get right back in to some character pros and cons. This is going to be what the characters are going to be strong against each other on or weak against each other. So we're going to actually start placing values on some things. And then, before the outcome, we get our last analysis, which is going to be by the guests. But we don't have any tonight, so that you won't have to worry about this. And last but not least, we get into the outcome, which is where we give out the details as to who wins, why, what kind of percentage, what kind of advantages it would take for the other side to win, things like that. And then after that, then we get into the preview for the next episode. Without further ado, let's get into our first competitor. Icarus from Mythos Imprint. We don't know a whole lot about this guy other than that he's a former superhero or costumed activist in Rose City. But he turned terrorist. He's also the former sidekick of Antiman. He's also the most current leader of the Bridge City Beta Males, which is a terrorist group. We don't know Icarus' real name, his age, but we do know a typical thing that does occur from the Mythos Imprint comic line. The height, the weight, all vary, but specifically the height varies through each of the panels. So this character, for how the Mythos Imprint characters kind of work, their reach and all this, it differs. Throughout the fight, they're going to be constantly changing. That's how this always works with them. Does it really mean a whole lot? It can, but maybe not. As for his personality, well, he's crazed, he's obsessive, he's underappreciated, specifically by Antiman. He's highly controlling and incredibly manipulative. What is he bringing to the fight here? Well, you look at his strength, average human male. Nothing super special. As for his durability, well, he's got clothing, and we're talking about an actual full-on suit, top hat and everything, over his spandex suit, which is what you can see here. As for his speed and agility, he is quite quick. He's a nimble little guy. He's fast enough to evade Antiman's strikes and tackles, and Antiman isn't exactly a slouch. He is definitely one of the best combatants throughout Rose City. If not, I would argue debatably the best, but he does show that he does not really want to go and throw down with extremely conservative woman. So that could be. We're really not really seeing the full picture here. Is that just kind of like just because of everybody else? Has he actually trained with her? You know, we don't know the details as to why he doesn't want to spar with her. As for his combat capabilities, well, we know he's trained with Antiman. So he knows how to fight. At least somewhat, right? As for his ingenuity, well, he's all about getting sneak and trick attacks against his opponents. And what he did is he was actually able to use his pocket glitter to temporarily blind Antiman. It didn't save him in the end. He ended up still getting his butt whooped and sent off to a mental institution. So the gadgets he brings into combat here, we've got the pocket glitter, which we don't even know how much pocket glitter he's got on him, but he has a lot. And there's seriously, we don't even know how many pockets this guy's got. So however much glitter this guy has got, it's debatable. He also comes equipped with an umbrella, which he can use as a shield as well. He can also use it kind of like a fencing rapier. Then he also comes equipped with a cane. So now he's got two weapons he can use and pocket glitters. Essentially how this breaks down. All right, well, let's get into his competition here. We got hailing from Crowers Comics, Alphaman. His real name is Orion Zeke. He is age 28 years old, and that's as of 2010. He is 5 foot 6 inches tall. He's 190 pounds. As for his occupation, he's an activist. Does a lot of homeless outreach and things like that, trying to go and help the people of Rain City. But he's also a vigilante, as he does fight crime. As for his personality, he's very honorable, generous, and empathetic. His areas of operation, well, it's only really downtown Rain City. A little miscellaneous information about him. Well, he's the former leader of the Alternatives. However, the team was dismantled when the other Alternatives tried to kill him for life insurance money, which was also thwarted somewhat, kind of, by Crow. As for what he is bringing to combat here, well, he's slightly above the average male. He's still pretty strong, but he's not like peak human strength. As for his durability, he's got a spandex suit with carbon fiber plate armor and impact-resistant foam built into the suit. So he can take some hits. As for speed and agility, well, he's capable of easily following Crow's movements while Crow is taking on the Alternatives. That's pretty quick considering he's a very fluid and very acrobatic fighter, and he's used almost every single one of his strikes are going to be instant takedown, and he's able to just continually just follow him throughout the whole field of combat. So he's very, very capable of noticing what's going on. For his combat capabilities, well, martial arts, well, he's trained in Aikido, Judo, Krav Maga, and he's a boxing student. But he's also a novice with a bow staff. For his ingenuity, well, he likes to use his collapsible bow staff, keep in mind it's collapsible, as a shield and as a tool to keep opponents at an advantageous distance. The only gadget he brings to this is the collapsible bow staff. So, how much data do we really have to break down for this? Well, that's the great thing here. We don't. This is actually going to be a very short show tonight. There's not a whole lot of data to break down. We're going to go and look through these things again. We're actually going to be skipping over the data analysis because there's really not a whole lot we can break down. The only thing we'd really be able to break down is going to be the height variation kind of ability that Icarus comes equipped with thanks to Mythos Imprint. He's going to be able to adjust his height. And it's not necessarily by his choice, it's just it adjusts automatically. Now, interesting thing about this, because it just automatically is doing that from panel to panel, we know that this could be both advantageous and disadvantageous in combat. Why? Because he could be swinging at somebody and completely miss, even though he was just at them just a second ago. There's other times where he could be swinging over them or swinging right into them, even though he didn't know. So it could cause some confusion. As for his feats, well, he's an average human male, so he's nothing super strong. His PSI isn't going to be really high enough necessarily to one-shot Alphaman, and Alphaman isn't really necessarily going to have the PSI to necessarily knock him out with one hit either. So this battle will probably get bloody. As for durability, clothing and spandex versus spandex and carbon fiber plates with impact-resistant foam. I mean, impact resistance, there's not going to be many hits. He'd have to hit him in a weak spot. So just as that breaks down. As for speed and agility, he's fast enough to evade. And then you've got Alphaman, who's fast enough he can always see what's going on in combat. He keeps up with some of the fastest in the Chromers. As for his combat capabilities, Antiman's training compared to all the rest of the stuff, we don't really know the extent of everything that Antiman is trained in. We just know a little bit of what he's trained in. Kind of. As for ingenuity, he's coming equipped with pocket glitter. Think pocket sand, that same type of trick, but this is going to be with little plastic bits being thrown at somebody's eyes. Not a whole lot different, but other than the pocket sand would get everywhere and would actually embed itself inside people's eyes a lot easier than pocket glitter can. He also comes equipped with an umbrella, cane, and pocket glitter, so not really a whole lot to analyze there. When it comes down to Alphaman, slightly above the average male. Basically, all you need to know is there's average male. He's going to be just a little bit stronger, just slightly. As for his durability, we know he's going to be able to go and take blunt hits very easily, gunshot wounds, things like this. He's going to be able to take those pretty easily. Speed and agility, he's going to be able to go and keep track of his opponent in battle very easily. And his collapsible bow staff should be able to keep him at a distance. Plus, he uses it as a shield, including spinning and things like this, so he could actually block projectiles. But it's a collapsible bow staff, which means it's not necessarily very strong. So, you have the pros and cons. Let's break this down. So on strength, well, that automatically goes to Alphaman because he's not average, he's slightly above. Good durability. You're gonna have to you have to go and give it to Alphaman because he's got all sorts of resistances against anything he's gonna be able to throw at him. Blunt force attacks, he's gonna be able to just take it, no problem. Speed and agility. This is where being able to actually dodge is going to be a lot more effective than just being able to, I can keep track of you. So we're going to give that to Icarus. As for martial arts capabilities, that's hands down going over to Alphaman. Ingenuity. They're both using one gadget to really give them the advantage. However, temporarily blinding is not going to be as effective as an actual tool. So if you were to look at ingenuity, Alphaman has a I would argue it's a lead, but it's not too great of a lead. And then of course you get gadgets. Alphaman's got one gadget, which once that breaks, he has no gadgets. But you look at what he's also trained in and all this, he's got some training with his weapon, so it'll be a little bit harder to break his weapon. This is where things are gonna be kind of tricky. Because their gadgets are pretty well rounded. One's got one gadget with plenty of training, well, with a bit of training, and the other one has got 3 gadgets with next to no training. So are we going to give it to the person with the more gadgets, or are we going to give it to the person that's got one with some training? I would argue one with training to be more effective. So this is where this battle becomes incredibly clear. So who wins? Well, you get strength, durability, martial arts, or martial prowess, ingenuity, and gadgetry all goes to Alphaman. And then you've got speed and agility, that's going to go to Icarus. Why? Because he's going to be able to actually evade versus just, I can keep track of you. So, that's a pretty straightforward battle. But we had a villain that was now just officially vanquished on stream. There will be more villains to come, of course, but as for Monday's battle, we got Captain Meow Meow versus Debug. Who will win? The femme fatale, feline fatale, I should say, or